He was born in a small, crowded neighborhood in Cebu, a place where narrow streets echo with tricycle engines, children's laughter, and radios playing old songs late into the night. His name was Miguel, a soft-spoken Filipino teenager who grew up watching his parents work endlessly just to keep food on the table. His father fixed broken appliances for neighbors, often paid with nothing more than gratitude, while his mother sold homemade snacks outside a local school. Life was simple, difficult, and uncertain, but one thing never changed. Music was always there. Miguel's earliest memory was sitting on the floor of their tiny home while an old, scratched radio played classic songs. Among those voices, one stood out more than any other. The deep, emotional sound of Elvis Presley filled the room, and even though Miguel didn't understand the words at first, he felt the emotion in every note. To him, Elvis didn't sound like a singer. He sounded like hope. As Miguel grew older, music became his escape. When school bullies mocked his worn-out shoes or when teachers scolded him for being distracted, he found comfort in humming melodies under his breath. At night, when the city quieted down, he would sit outside, looking at the sky, practicing songs softly so he wouldn't disturb his parents. His neighbors sometimes paused to listen, surprised by the powerful voice coming from such a young boy. But dreams are expensive, especially in families that struggle daily. Miguel never had vocal training. He never owned a microphone. His stage was the street corner, the school hallway, and sometimes small local events where he sang for free. People praised him, but praise doesn't pay bills. Many times, his parents gently reminded him to focus on practical things, to find work, to help the family survive. They loved his voice, but they feared his dream would break his heart. Everything changed one evening when a talent show audition clip appeared on a neighbor's phone. It was America's Got Talent, the biggest stage Miguel had ever seen, watched by millions across the world. He saw ordinary people transform their lives in minutes. For the first time, the impossible felt close enough to touch. That night, Miguel made a decision that scared him more than anything he had ever done. He would audition for AGT. Applying was not easy. There were forms, videos, and deadlines. Miguel recorded his audition on a borrowed phone, standing against a plain wall, wearing a faded shirt, singing with everything he had. He didn't try to be flashy. He just sang from his heart. When he pressed send, he didn't tell anyone. He didn't want to hope too much. Weeks passed. Then months. Just when Miguel thought nothing would come of it, an email arrived. He had been selected. He was invited to audition in front of the judges in America. His hands shook as he read the message again and again. The joy quickly turned into fear. How would they afford the trip? How could a poor boy from Cebu stand on a stage like that? The community surprised him. Neighbors organized small fundraisers. Local musicians offered encouragement. Even strangers donated what little they could. Miguel's parents, seeing the belief in their son's eyes, made the hardest and bravest decision of their lives. They told him to go. Standing backstage at America's Got Talent, Miguel felt smaller than ever. Bright lights, cameras, and famous judges surrounded him. He had watched this stage on a tiny phone screen, and now it towered over him. His heart pounded as his name was called. He walked forward slowly, feeling every step echo in his chest. The judges looked at him curiously. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, known around the world for his brutal honesty. Miguel introduced himself in a quiet voice, explaining where he came from and why music meant everything to him. Some people in the audience smiled politely. Others looked uncertain. This was the moment where many contestants fail. Simon asked him what he would sing. When Miguel said it was an Elvis song, eyebrows raised. Singing Elvis is dangerous. The comparisons are unforgiving. The expectations are massive. Simon gave a warning look, the kind that says you better be extraordinary. The music started. For the first few seconds, Miguel closed his eyes. When he opened his mouth, something incredible happened. The voice that came out of him was rich, emotional, and far beyond his years. It wasn't an imitation. It wasn't karaoke. It was his own soul, shaped by struggle, pouring into every lyric. The audience fell silent. Simon leaned forward. Other judges exchanged surprised looks. As Miguel reached the chorus, his voice soared with a control and feeling that sent chills through the room. People in the crowd began to tear up. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Then came the first twist. Halfway through the song, the backing track suddenly stopped. A technical issue. The band cut out. Gasps filled the room. This is where dreams die. Many contestants panic. Miguel froze for half a second. Then he did something nobody expected. He kept singing. Without music, his raw voice filled the theater. Every breath, every note was exposed. Instead of weakening, his performance became stronger. The emotion intensified. The audience erupted into applause mid-song. The judges were stunned. Simon's expression changed from skepticism to something rare. Respect. When Miguel finished, there was a moment of silence, followed by a standing ovation. People screamed. Some cried openly. The judges stood on their feet. Simon shook his head, smiling in disbelief. Simon spoke first. He said he had heard many people attempt Elvis songs, and most fail badly. But what Miguel did was special. He said that voice didn't belong to a teenager from a small town. It belonged on the biggest stages in the world. Coming from Simon, those words meant everything. Another judge said Miguel reminded them why music exists, to connect souls, not show off technique. Someone even said that if Elvis were alive, he would be proud. The crowd roared. Then came the second twist. Simon revealed that he almost rejected Miguel's audition video. It was the simplicity, not the perfection, that made him take a chance. If Miguel had tried to be flashy, he might never have made it. That confession shocked everyone. Miguel was overwhelmed. Tears streamed down his face as he thanked the judges, his parents, and everyone back home watching in the Philippines. He spoke about representing not just himself, but every kid who feels invisible. As the show progressed, Miguel became one of the most talked about contestants. Clips of his audition went viral. Millions watched his performance. Comments flooded in from the US, Europe, Asia, and beyond. People were moved not just by his voice, but by his story. But success brings pressure. In the next round, Miguel struggled with nerves. Rehearsals were tough. He missed notes. Doubt crept in. For the first time, he wondered if he truly belonged there. The night before his next performance, Miguel received a video call from his parents. They didn't talk about winning. They told him they were already proud. They reminded him why he sang in the first place. That moment grounded him. On stage again, Miguel chose a different song, one that reflected his journey. His performance wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The judges praised his growth and courage. Simon said something unforgettable. He said Miguel didn't just sing songs, he told stories. Whether Miguel won the competition or not almost became irrelevant. His life had already changed. He returned home as a hero. Kids in Cebu started singing Elvis songs, dreaming bigger dreams. His parents no longer worried about his future. Music had become his path. Miguel's story is not just about talent. It's about courage, community, and believing in a voice that the world hasn't heard yet. From a small home in Cebu to the grand stage of America's Got Talent, he proved that greatness can come from anywhere.